Thank you all for joining the last day of the CLAMTEX virtual marketplace towards Industry 4.0 with opportunities for the textile industry. First of all, I would like to remind you a few housekeeping rules, like please shut down your cameras not to overload the network connection. Also, the session is recorded, as I mentioned, so if you don't wish to be identified, please do not turn on your camera or hide your details in the platform. Also, please keep your mics muted unless you are presenting, so that we do not hear any background noise. Also, we remind you that the Q&A session will be addressed at the end of each of the 2 blocks that we have in the program for today. So please place your questions in the chat, and we'll catch them up at the end of each of the 2 blocks that we have. You can also invite other attendees to virtual matchmaking, so B2B meetings until the end of today. So you still have access today to organize the last meetings you may want to through the platforms. So with that said, I would like to just go over a very short introduction of the CLAMTEX virtual marketplace. I'm Josep Casamada, I'm the project coordinator of CLAMTEX. CLAMTEX aims to bridge the gaps between advanced manufacturing and textile industry in order to drive industrial modernization and digitalization of the sector. The partnership is composed of 5 partners, 3 textile clusters and 2 advanced manufacturing clusters from Spain, France, and Portugal. And I would like to remind you that this is part of the virtual cluster exchange, and we will organize, once the travel is safe, back physical exchanges, cluster exchanges, where the different companies can take benefit of. So to participate in cross-border visits within the European Union for learning, exploring new markets, establishing collaborations, take up technology, etc. The eligibility for visitors is to be SME, scaling up organization that are members of a cluster, and for hosts that they are either SMEs, scaling up organization, or clusters. There will be financial support for physical physical cluster exchanges that will last between 3 days and 30 days, and the financial support will depend on the country you visit, up to 1,100 euros. So in case you plan to have some exchange during the next months after the pandemic allows the traveling back, please let us know, and we will support you on the application and getting the financial support for that. With that said, I would like to introduce today's session very briefly. It's the last session of the cluster exchange, and today we have 2 really nice blocks of presentations, one from the EU funding opportunities for SMEs with presentations of the Horizon Europe, EIC, InvestEU, and the Single Market Program by members of the Commission and their agencies. And then we will have a second block dedicated to specific programs for textile and advanced manufacturing companies within EIT Manufacturing, ELIIT, and GALACTICA. So this is the agenda for today. So we will start with the Horizon Europe presentation, and then we'll follow the different presentations. At the end of the first block, we will have a Q&A session dedicated to the first block. And then the second block will start with the different programs specific for textile and advanced manufacturing SMEs with a dedicated Q&A block. So please feel free to put any question you may have in the chat, and we will address them at the end of each block. With that said, I would like to bring to the floor to Clement from DG-RTD to present the Horizon Europe. Thank you very much for joining this session and for joining us today. And with that said, I would like to give you the floor.
Many thanks. Buenos dias, bon dia, good morning, dear colleagues. It is a pleasure to be with you this morning to introduce you to Horizon Europe. So what I will offer you this morning over 15 minutes is a general overview on the program, and then I understand that my colleague Cornelius will give you additional insight on the part of the program that I guess is very valuable for any SMEs with the intention to grow through innovation with this new program of the European Innovation Council. But maybe let's turn back to Horizon right now. And should I download my presentation, or do you want to?
If you feel okay, you can share your screen with the presentation.
I arrive. Okay, so welcome in Horizon Europe, and with this first slide, I would like to invite you to still some weeks of patience. The main information with this slide for me would be to say that as for now, we are planning to publish the first calls of Horizon somewhere in May this year. So this presentation is useful to get you prepared and help you as well to connect with your local and national representatives, such as the national contact points. First, I would like to insist on the fact that the rationale behind Horizon Europe is very determined by the complex world we are living in. The complex global problem, starting from the pandemic, of course, but as well including climate crisis, biodiversity loss, and digital revolution, calls for a systemic approach in setting the EU research innovation investment. This is why Horizon Europe will offer this systemic approach by providing an interface between the EU policy priorities and research innovation investment. But in addition to that, Horizon Europe will as well support, generally speaking, cooperation among the partners of the different activities that will get funded, but cooperation as well beyond the among the beneficiaries that will participate to our activities, because one thing very important to understand is that any scientific publication that will be elaborated and created through Horizon Europe will be accessible to any reader in the world. It is part of the Horizon Europe and the European Commission commitment to open science and open data. I will switch to the next slide to introduce you more concretely Horizon Europe as a program. The different strands are allocated around four main parts. The first part is dedicated to supporting our researchers all across Europe at all stages of their career. So while the European Research Council will continue supporting groundbreaking research, the Marie Curie program will still continue to support the initial and lifelong training of researchers, whereas the program on research infrastructure will ensure that all our research innovation stakeholders will have access to the best technological and scientific equipment across Europe. When it comes to small and medium enterprises, I would stress that on one hand, there will be direct opportunities in the research infrastructures to access, to get access to equipment as well to a limited extent for business purposes, but as well for innovation purposes. But I would like as well to stress that the Marie Curie program consider as well the cooperation between academia and industry. So it is as well potentially an opportunity, for instance, to include young researchers in industrial projects. But I would say that under Horizon, the main part of the intersectoral cooperation is expected under Pillar 2 and Pillar 3. Pillar 2 is intitulated Global Challenges and European Industrial Competitiveness. The idea here is to give indeed the right interface between the different public policies in the European Union and our research innovation investment. Mainly our priorities, but I will turn to this in a couple of instances, are linked to our intention to offer resilience to Europe, but as well to turn the green and digital transition into opportunities for all. So under Pillar 2, we will fund collaborative research innovation project, meaning consortia composed at least of 3 different partners established in 3 different member states. The 6 clusters reflect the organization of our economies and societies today. So cluster 1 will be about investing in health. Cluster 2 is about culture, creativity, and inclusive society. Cluster 3 is dedicated to civil security. Cluster 4, and I think it is of great relevance for you, is dedicated to digital industry and space. Cluster 5, climate, energy, and mobility, which is as well relevant for your sector, I guess. And Cluster 6 is on food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture, and environment. Then Horizon Europe has as well a 3rd pillar called Innovative Europe, and this is a pillar that will be then presented by Cornelius.
Obrigada. Deixa eu tirar uma branquinha. Esta aqui. Esta aqui. Esta aqui. Para não ser. Ai, que linda! Obrigada, Cecita.
Thanks. This pillar 3, just to give you some flavor, the idea here is for us Europeans to be able to ensure that the world top class science that we create, not least through Pillar 1 and Pillar 2, will be then disseminated through Europe in order for businesses and any civil society actor to grow and offer economic opportunities to the different European inhabitants. Then, last but not least, and it is more focused, I would say, on science and innovation policy, we have a cross-cutting part, which is named Widening Participation and Strengthening the European Research Area. And then here, maybe it is about investing in capacity buildings in different member states of the European Union, where some additional capacity building would help them to be better connected to the best markets and best ecosystems of research across the continent. I would like to stress that for the first time, the outmost region of the European Union are eligible to this scheme, which means that in Spain, the Archipelago de las Canarias is one of the eligible territory. Thanks. I will switch to this slide, which is here to remind you that for any activity to be funded through Horizon Europe, the consortia is expected to deliver in parallel of a 3 set of impact. Scientific impact, of course, because it is about pushing toward our scientific base according to Article 179 of the treaty, but as well about societal and economic impact. And here, turning back to the 6 clusters, I could not stress enough that when it comes to being able to demonstrate economic impact, it is more than an added value for any consortium to have SMEs in order to be able to see how a result, a solution, can be then developed, deployed, and put in the market. This may be a little bit abstract slide is here to present the strategic plan and the strategic planning process. In 2019, following the political agreement between the co-legislators, we launched a set of co-design activities together with the European Parliament, member states, and civil society, with more than 8,000 answers submitted in writing and through different face-to-face activities, not least in the Research Innovation Days in 2020 and 2021. We have been able to put direction, as I was mentioning, to our investments, and I will come to this. The idea, again, is to be sure that we support teams able to provide solution to our main top political priorities. So the first of those direction is about promoting an open strategic autonomy, not least in the field of the digital technologies, but as well in the field of emerging technologies, and I guess it could be of interest for your sector. Then the second strategic orientation is about protecting and restoring our Europe ecosystem and our biodiversity, and this is part indeed of the connection with the European Green Deal. But since the green transition have two legs, the environmental legs and the climate leg, we have as well a specific strategic orientation on ensuring that through research innovation investment, we will contribute to making Europe the first climate-free economy by 2050. Then the last priority is about the systemic approach I was introducing a couple of minutes ago, by making sure that all those technological progress will be supported as well by the contribution of science and innovation to more resilient and democratic societies across Europe. Then I would like as well to outline another main novelty of Horizon Europe, which are the missions. Missions have been established in the legal basis in order first to better connect our research innovation policy at the European level with our citizens, and second, as well, in order to promote synergies across the different policies of the Union. So the idea of each of these missions is to offer an objective that should be easily communicable, and that should be as well easily in a position to be owned by our European citizen, and then to create a specific agenda of research innovation together with member states and region over the next 10 years. When it comes to your sector, I think that the most interesting one is probably both the one on climate adaptation and on healthy oceans. Now I will switch to my last, I would say, content slide to turn back to other cross-cutting dimension of Horizon Europe. So across all the pillars that we have been through a couple of minutes ago, as part of the European Union science policy priorities, we will make sure that each relevant project will help us as well to deliver on gender equality, on ethics and integrity, but as well in providing solutions for social sciences, ensuring open science, but that I introduce this, and last but not least, promoting where possible social innovation solution, precisely in order to be in a position to better ensure the dissemination of new knowledge and new solution into the society. With this, I would have finished my tour d'horizon on the new framework program Horizon Europe, and I would, yes, advise you in advance of the publication of the first call, probably somewhere in May, to take contact with your Spanish national representative into the Horizon Europe Shadow Program Committee. Many thanks. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Clement. It was a really nice presentation. I would like to remind all participants that you can post your questions in the chat, and we will take them back at the end of the blog. So thank you very much, Clement. Now we are going to continue with Cornelius, that will present the EIC program. So let me.
Thank you very much, Josep, and we agreed that you would kindly show the slides because I had difficulties with that yesterday. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you, which is a pleasure for me. So after Clement has presented you the overview of the entire framework program, I will now delve more deeply into one particular part, which is Pillar 3, or in one particular part of the main part of Pillar 3, I dare to say, which is the European Innovation Council. Thank you very much. So here, yeah, you can go to the second slide already. Thank you. So contrary to what Clement said, Clement was referring to the first work program only published in May. That refers to the main work program, so to Pillar 2. Pillar 1, the ERC, I think a work program, the European Research Council, is either about to be adopted or has already been adopted. And we in the European Innovation Council hope to have our work program adopted on the 17th and published on the 18th of March, so a bit earlier. So this is when calls will actually open for you. So I will briefly go through the rationale for the European Innovation Council. I will then talk about our experience from the pilot, and then I will give you a bit of a preview of what the EIC in Horizon Europe will look like with the concrete possibilities, with the caveat that, as I just mentioned, the work program with all the details will only be published in March. So we are in a particular period, but you can already start to prepare. Next slide, thank you. So on the next slide, after this, so here, really, we try to look into what are the main barriers to innovation in Europe, and we think that one is on innovation performance. We have a very strong research performance in Europe, but that one that is not translated into innovation, and we have a lack of breakthrough and disruptive innovations that create new markets. We have a huge gap in innovation funding. I'm going to have a couple of slides to that. There are two valleys of death in transition from lab to enterprise, and then in scaling up for high-risk innovative startups. Interestingly, Europe actually does have a high number of startups, which is comparable to that in the US or Asia, but it's in the scale-up phase that we fall down then. And also in terms of innovation ecosystems, we have many national and local ecosystems, but those are fragmented at the European level, and we need to include all regions and talents in bringing these ecosystems together. Next slide. So this is about the funding gap, just showing you very impressively how over the years this funding gap has, if anything, maybe even increased. So we have about 4 to 5 times more venture capital in the US compared to Europe. Next slide. Also, we see when we ask universities what they consider their weakest ecosystem links, we see that they actually say industry and investors. So this is about the lack of translating our strong research base into innovation. So this is the other part where we really wanted to change something. Next slide. And again, another figure to document what I say. So here you say that we do not have enough unicorns, so companies that are valued over 1 billion. You see that North America has about 5 times as many. Next slide. And already, I think 2 more clicks, so then you can see the whole slide. So here you see what is at stake, who will lead on the next wave of strategically important innovations. I think 1 more click, because then you see that in the early phase, you have, in terms of electricity, airplanes, cars, you had Europe in the lead. Now we're currently in a phase where clearly the US leads, and then followed by Asia and the EU. And the question is, in the next wave of innovation, and we have some of the hot topics listed there, who leads there. Next slide. There might be 2 more clicks on this one. Yeah, just the next one. So now on our experience from the EIC pilot, next slide. So this is maybe the most important slide. If you don't know, I think we don't have the time for a little survey. It would be very interesting for me to know who of you is actually, if we can go 1 slide back, who of you knows already about the European Innovation Council and is at least vaguely aware of what we're doing. This is really the slide that gives you most information on this. So it is a unique offer of funding and support. You get up to 2.5 million of grant. And in addition, you can apply for equity investments of up to 15 million. These equity will be provided by a public fund, the EIC fund, that is run like an investment fund, but with public money. And you also get access to coaching, mentoring, links to corporates and investors. There's a growing demand. This is a program that is eligible only for small and medium enterprises in the pilot that I'm talking about now. In 2020 alone, we had 14,000 applications. I see that there are some messages in the chat. I will not have time now to look at them, but I will try to look at them later and then see when and check with Josep when we have time to discuss or to answer on this. We have supported 5,700 startups and SMEs with our pilot actions on the EIC since 2014. It started with the name of SME Instrument, was then called EIC Accelerators, and we have achieved in 2020 an impressive positive action where we have really increased the number of female founders in our funded population. 90% of our projects do address the Sustainable Development Goals. I think that reflects also the overall business climate and innovation climate in Europe. 30% in the Green Deal, 30% in digital, and 30% are invested in health. We had a special call on COVID solutions, and we have a very proven impact. We have a 5.3 billion follow-up investments in the companies that are funded by us, and we have 1 unicorn selling that has been funded by us, actually twice in 2 different projects. And we have 43 companies that are valued over 100 million. Next slide. The total number of proposals received. So when we talk about the pilot in the more narrow sense, we're talking about a period since 2019. Yes, you can stay there. Actually, this is just some figures. Go to the next slide. More detailed figures on the next slide, where we have the next. Josep, if you can go to the next slide. Where we have the detailed number of applications. Yeah, okay, now I think we have skipped 1 slide, 2 slides actually. Yeah, let's stay there if we can. So this is that gives you an overview in the pilot about the number of grants that we have awarded. So there we had the possibility of grant only and of blended finance, grant and equity. So majority of projects were still grant only, but an increasing demand for blended finance. Next slide. On the next slide, you see the distribution of the money. Not surprisingly, the majority of the funding goes into the equity because these are bigger chunks of money than the grant, which is limited to 2.5 million. On the next slide, you get an overview in terms of countries in Europe. So these are the member states and the associated countries that are eligible to apply here. And you see, yeah, that's okay. We can stay on that slide. That gives you the number of applications per country and also the success rate. Don't put too much emphasis on this success rate. This clearly, I mean, you see that Spain is actually, I think, faring pretty well, certainly in number of applications. I have to look for it now. Yes, it actually has the 2nd highest number of applications after Italy, and it has a very decent success rate. On the success rate, you also need to see that this is a very narrow range here. We're talking between 5.5 and I think 2% or 0%, of course, for a number of countries on this slide. But clearly, Spain has a very strong ecosystem to also support these applicants. Very active national contact point that Clement already mentioned. Next slide. I have two examples from the pilot from your sector. So one is Veggia, a company that was founded in 2016 in Milan with the aim to promote the integration between chemistry and agriculture through the development of new eco-sustainable products, which develops alternatives to fully synthetic oil-derived materials for fashion, furniture, packing, automotive, and transportation. And I think on the next slide, you have some of their partners and of their developments, very impressive. Let's go to the next slide. Another example is a company in Germany on grass-based solutions to innovate the industrial paper production, where we have a company that supplies grass-based raw material for the industrial production of paper, which can be manufactured from up to 50% of grass fibers, and also aims to bringing to the market 100% treeless grass textile paper using textile waste and grass. Next slide. And again, where on the market you see some of their important clients, pretty impressive success story of another one of our projects. And next slide. I think we can now come to the last section. What will the EIC look in Horizon Europe? So this is a preview. As I mentioned, full details will be available on the 18th of March, hopefully. Next slide. It is Europe's most ambitious innovation initiative, we like to say. It has a budget of 10 billion. It wants to identify, develop, and scale up high-risk innovations with a particular focus on disruptive, deep tech, and market-creating innovations. It will have an independent board of innovators and a president. I think we have later a slide to the current EIC Advisory Board, which is already a very impressive collection of personalities from the world of innovation and investing. We want to have a one-stop shop for implementation. We will be organized in a new executive agency, which will collaborate closely with the EIC Fund, which is now its own legal entity established in Luxembourg, but governed, as I mentioned, by the Commission. It will offer more agile and flexible funding. We have high-level program managers. We have hired the first of those to develop visions for breakthroughs and steer particular portfolios of projects. We will have a fast-track system for people who are already grant holders in Horizon 2020 or Horizon Europe. In particular, this relates to the European Research Council as well as to EIT. Maybe back, because this is also an important slide, still back one. And we have an EIC forum on the ecosystem part where all stakeholders can discuss and exchange best practices. And we will, of course, work together with the EIT and the innovation ecosystems. Thank you. Next slide gives you an overview of the current EIC. This is still the European Innovation Council. So here our idea, a one-stop shop for breakthrough deep tech market creating innovators, agile funding from idea to investment, which is organized in three main instruments. Maybe I'll dwell for a moment on that one if you still go back one slide. The Pathfinder for advanced research on emerging technologies. So here we can fund mostly consortia of academia together with SMEs and industry. So this is more at the early stages of innovation. We then have a special program on transition, which exactly is supposed to bridge this valley of death between the lab and the commercial setting. And then we have the accelerator, which I have given you the examples of the companies, for example. So these are SMEs. In some cases, exceptional cases, we will also be able to fund small mid-caps with the same principle as before, 2.5 million of grant and up to 50 million of equity. And then we have the pillar on the building of ecosystems and communities, where we offer our business acceleration services, where we have the EIC program managers, which will also be ambassadors of our program, manage portfolios and make the connection to ecosystems, and where it will be then important to also, of course, crowd in other investors, private investors. We are not there to crowd out private investors. We're there to collaborate with them and bring them in and then disappear whenever that is possible and private investors come in. Next slide. This is the next slide is the current EIC Advisory Board. The chair is Mark Ferguson from Ireland. A vice chair is very well-known investor Herman Hauser, so a very prominent group of personalities who really have given us key advice. Next slide, I think, gives some of their input. the advisory board vision statement, which was published in 2020 to pioneer a European approach to global innovation challenges, to crowd in, as I just mentioned, private investors, and as a funder investor of choice for visionary idea. I think next slide. We're coming to the end of this short tour de force through the European Innovation Council in the work program for 2021. As I mentioned, full details in 2021, but here a sneak preview. The Pathfinder, this is the early stage innovation program, mainly open to any ideas, so bottom up, but also few targeted calls on health, energy, and digital technologies with program managers. And with the possibility to invest very flexibly 50,000 additional follow-up grants on a very easy and quick basis to test feasibility and interact across portfolios. We have the transition scheme to bridge the gap between the research phase and the pre-commercial. In the first phase in this work program, this will be specifically for follow-up to results from the EIC Pathfinder, so from programs already have benefited from our funding, and the EIC proof of concept. Next slide. In the accelerator, we will also have mainly open funding bottom up, any ideas, because we believe that the best ideas cannot be steered, but really come from innovators, from smart innovators. But we also recognize the need for to emphasize specific political priorities. So this will be green, digital, and health technologies, mostly from the specific budget, Next Generation EU, which is mostly there for the recovery from the COVID crisis. Mostly blended finance, grant and investment. This component will be even stronger, but also options for grant only and grant first, where the investment can follow up later. We have a new innovator-friendly application process, where the first stage will be even simpler with a video pitch and a slide deck, and we hope to be able to give feedback within 4 weeks. Of course, that also comes at the cost that this will be the major selection process, where we hope to weed out 60 to 70% of applications, so that only those that have a reasonable chance then need to go through the more detailed application. And we will have an EIC fund with faster due diligence than in the current pilot and decision making, and a developed platform to crowd in other investors. Next slide. Yes, and as I mentioned, not only funding, but also smart business acceleration services. Next slide, which gives you an idea of the cycle that we want to get into. BAS stands for Business Acceleration Services, where we want to give access to advice, access to business partners, and access to innovation ecosystem and peers in all our instruments, Pathfinder, Transition, and Accelerator. And then I think we come to the last 2 slides. Next steps. As I mentioned, we're currently in the process still of the formal adoption of the work program. The calls will be adopted on the 17th and then opened on the 18th with information available. And then we will have deadlines, cutoffs for applications, and we will have evaluations, interviews, grants, due diligence for equity. And in autumn, a bit more this time, it was all a bit hurried because we needed to catch up the delay in the political decision making on the multi-annual financial framework and the adoption of Horizon Europe. Next time, this will be a bit more in advance. In autumn, we hope to be able to launch the EIC work program for the next year. Thank you very much. Yeah, and this gives you some sources for more information. Josep, maybe you can clarify. I don't know how there's time for discussion or chat or.
Yes, we will have a blog for Q&A after the presentations from the European Commission blog. So we have 2 more presentations and we will have the Q&A. And we will address
one question was whether presentations can be shared, and certainly my presentation can be shared. Yes, thank you.
Yes. Okay, so thank you very much, Cornelius, for this excellent presentation and really nice insights. We will continue now with the next presentation from Albena from DG Growth on the InvestEU program.
Yeah, hello, good morning. I hope you can hear me well and you can also see my presentation.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So my name is Albena. I work in DG-GROW in the unit on access to finance. In the old programming periods, 14-20, we were running the COSME financial instruments part, which consisted of a loan guarantee facility and also an equity facility for growth. And in this programming period 21-27, we are the chair of the SME window of InvestEU. So my presentation today will be focused on InvestEU and what possibilities for financing it can provide to SMEs. First of all, I would like to say a few key principles on InvestEU. It's a program which is a successor, effectively, of 14 EU-level financial instruments that were implemented in the old programming period. You see them on the slide. So for the sake of simplicity, single rule book, and to address some criticism in the past that there were too many EU-level instruments with too many different rules, timetables, reporting requirements, and so on. For the 21-27 programming period, the Commission is proposing one single InvestEU program. It consists of an InvestEU fund, which has the purpose of mobilizing private and public investments into projects and activities in line with the priorities for the EU. It also has an InvestEU advisory hub, which is aiming to help project promoters and also for the financial sector to implement better the InvestEU program. And also has an InvestEU portal, which is a tool to match investors with project promoters and any other players seeking finance. So in InvestEU is basically a budgetary guarantee. It's not a financial flow to the banking sector, but we provide a guarantee to the banking sector to facilitate their lending to companies. Unfortunately, after the last discussions in the Council and the Parliament, we experienced some budgetary cuts, and the overall capacity of the InvestEU program will not be the one proposed by the Commission, but slightly less. But nevertheless, it's still an important budget with 26 billion EU budgetary guarantee, which is aiming to mobilize overall some 370 billion euros across Europe for the programming period 21-27. And also 30% of this amount should be allocated to investments which contribute to climate and environment. Also, following the COVID crisis, there has been a big debate on the need for the EU to support sectors of strategic autonomy for the Union. And under all the windows, which I will cover a bit later, of InvestEU, we can support such investments. So there are 4 windows under the InvestEU fund. The first one is dedicated to sustainable infrastructure. So typically, this can support larger projects of infrastructure, of energy, transport, green mobility, energy efficiency in particular. So you can see on the slides the total EU capacity of the guarantee is 9.9 billion euros for the programming period overall. The second window is research, innovation and digitalization, which is focusing on R&I investments, also cooperation with universities, anything in the area of research and innovation, which needs to be supported these days in Europe with a capacity of 6.6 billion euros. The SME window, which is the subject of my presentation today, with 6.9 billion euros, and also a social investment and skills window, which is targeting microfinance, also social enterprises, some development of health infrastructure with a smaller capacity of 2.8 billion euros. Maybe here it's the place to also clarify that we work with the banking sector. We guarantee the banking sector for investments which they would not take otherwise. So we provide a guarantee where there is a clear market gap or suboptimal financial situation. And also we are aiming to crowd in as much as possible private investments for the InvestEU implementation. So 75% of our guarantee will be implemented through the EIB group, which is the European Investment Bank and the European Investment Fund located in Luxembourg. They have a wide range of coverage through financial intermediaries, either national promotional banks or commercial banks in the whole, in all the member states. So that is why they have the biggest share of the guarantee capacity. But also 25% of this capacity we can implement through guaranteeing national promotional banks in the member states. And then in their turn, they know better the situation on the ground, what are the market gaps which need to be supported in the particular member state. And also this creates a bit of more competition among the financial sector, better conditions to companies at the end of the day, and better outreach. A few words about the SME window of InvestEU. So we have the core aim of our supports being to increase the access to finance to SMEs and small mid-caps, and go into areas where commercial banks, for example, would not consider supporting because SMEs are too risky, or they lack sufficient collateral to get good conditions for their lending, or it's simply a policy priority area for the EU, which the banks have not considered supporting, such as innovation, digitalization, sustainability, and investments in the cultural and creative sector. Our targeted final recipients are small and medium-sized enterprises, and also under certain conditions, small mid-caps. The SME window is the successor of 3 financial instruments, EU level ones, which were run in the 14-20 programming period. The COSME Loan Guarantee Facility, which had a big success in the past programming period and managed to support more than 640,000 SMEs and also to accumulate over 38 billion of financing. A large part of this amount was dedicated to the manufacturing sector and also the wholesale and retail sector, which also means that a lot of SMEs from the textile industry were also hopefully able to benefit from this support. It's also the successor of Innofin SME Guarantee Facility and the facility for the cultural and creative sector. So we will have under the SME window with the European Investment Fund, which is our main implementing partner, as I said, for the 75% of our capacity, 2 products. One is guaranteeing lending of the banking sector to companies, SMEs and small mid-caps. On the one hand, to improve generally their competitiveness and also provide better conditions to companies, which the banking sector otherwise would not have done, either through longer maturities, low collateral, or simply supporting more riskier SMEs, which the commercial sector didn't have the appetite to support so far. And we will have also better conditions for banks to stimulate them to support investments which are for innovation. According to the Innofin innovation criteria, investments in the cultural and creative sector, investments in SMEs and small mid-caps to digitalize, which is so pertinent in today's COVID times. And also in line with the Green Deal objectives of the EU, also financing for supporting sustainability activities in the area of environment, climate, or even socially oriented investments. On the equity side, we will join forces with the other window on research and innovation and digitalization that I referred to a few slides ago. And we would aim to support funds, equity funds, which invest in fast-growing companies, either oriented towards environment and climate, in line again with the Green Deal objectives, or again in the digital area like artificial intelligence, blockchain, high-performing computing, 5G, and so on. Also sectors of strategic importance like space, defense, some key enabling technologies. We also want to support technological transfer funds, funds in the cultural and creative sector. Also funds which support listing of SMEs on the European venues. Co-investments with business angels, gender balance simulation, also investments in geographies which are underserved from point of view of equity, which are also classified as moderate and modest innovators. All these ideas of the Commission are, of course, subject to negotiation with our implementing partners. So it's just a state of play at the moment. What are the support possibilities for textile SMEs under the SME window? So nevertheless, that there is no prominent pocket of the financing for textile SMEs. They will be eligible and supported also basing on past experience from COSME quite substantially. We expect this support to take place either to improve their general competitiveness or with more prominence in anything related to innovation, digitalization, and undertaking sustainable activities and transforming to more sustainable environmental climate practices. And also there is possibility for equity support, as I mentioned before. The InvestEU regulation was agreed by the Council and Parliament after a lengthy trilogue in December last year. So we expect in March the formal vote in the Parliament and also the endorsement by the Council, and finally the adoption, the formal adoption of the regulation in end of March, beginning of April. Also in spring, immediately after the adoption of the regulation, we will adopt also some of the secondary legislation, and notably the investment guidelines for implementing partners, what they need to present to us in terms of product proposal. And also there will be a call for expression of interest for the banking sector to apply. Still in spring this year, we took cut-off days for product proposals, one in May and one in June, July, hopefully, which means that in the second half of the year, we hope to have concluded the guarantee agreements with the banks and the support to start to flow to companies. Thank you for your attention. This is what I wanted to present to you today, and happy to reply to questions if there are any.
Thank you very much, Albena. It has been a really nice presentation. We'll keep the questions in the chat in the meanwhile, and we will go over them after the next presentation for all the first four speakers. Thank you very much for joining for accepting the invitation, and we would like now to bring to the floor Benoit ESMANNE, Policy Officer from DG-RTD, to present the Single Market Program.
Thank you, Josep. You see my screen, right?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, very good. Then good morning to everyone. So the purpose will be to give you a very short introduction about the Single Market Program, and specifically to give you some hints about how this program can be supporting clusters and SMEs in the next programming period. So just as a reminder, and as it was already mentioned, I mean, you probably know that it was a difficult decision to get an agreement on the EU budget, or what we call the multi-annual financial framework. You see here the different steps, and I will not define them in detail, but just to let you know that at the moment, although there was an agreement between the European Council and the Parliament, I mean, we still have to put in place the legal framework for the different programs. So what I will present you today is really to give you the overview, but there might still be some changes in some details, and we still need to get the regulation adopted and entering in force before we can use this new instrument. So to give you a little bit of the background, what is the Single Market Program? It's actually a new program which gathers some former individual initiatives and programs. So there were 6 different instruments that were also evolving with their different rules, with their different legal framework, but that were touching upon the single market. And with the intention of having one single market program, the purpose is to gather a little bit everything together under the same umbrella, and to have something which is definitely more efficient and creating more synergies in order to make the single market more effective. The objectives cover then the strands of the 6 former programs. So there is a specific focus on making the internal market working better, about improving the competitiveness of businesses and in particular SMEs. There is a point on increasing standardization, a point on promoting the interest of consumers, a specific focus also on health and the food chain, and also a very specific strand on the production communication of high quality statistics. Regarding the budget of the Single Market Program, the proposal from the Commission was to have 4 billion. And you can see here in the little graph at the bottom a little bit the breakdown of the Single Market Program budget by the different for the different strands that I just mentioned. So you can see that competitiveness of SMEs still get a very big share of the funding of this Single Market Program. So to put it in a few words and to give you in a nutshell an overview of what the main features of the SMP, so the Single Market Program, will be, it aims at supporting and promoting a culture of innovation. It will focus on the industrial ecosystems as they are defined in the EU Industrial Strategy. They will promote new collaborative business models and sharing the knowledge and resources among partners. It will provide effective support for SMEs, and it will of course focus on the green and digital transition of SMEs. There are different provisions that will directly address SMEs in the Single Market Program, and you can see here a list of some of them, but I will not really go into details about them right now because I will finish my presentation with a little bit more details on each of these specific provisions. So when we are talking about clusters and the Single Market Program, what does that mean for clusters? The first thing is that there is a specific recital in the regulation which clearly highlights the role of cluster and their strategic role in supporting the competitiveness and scaling up of SMEs, in helping and providing support to SMEs to foster the green and digital transition, and they are also seen as a relevant tool to offer favorable and resilient business environments. There is also a specific reference now to clusters in the regulation with a sort of with a definition, let's say, of clusters and business network organizations in order to set a little bit the rules of who can get support through the single market program in the future and which type of action those beneficiaries could be implementing and receiving support for. So again, in a nutshell, and sometimes you probably know that one image tells a better story than several pages of words and sentences. So on the left-hand side, you can see a little bit what we had until now. Basically, the different COSME supporting actions and programs for clusters and sometimes also for SMEs. So you had INOSUP, you had the European Strategic Cluster Partnership for Internationalization, for Excellence, or also for Smart Specialization. And all these different strands, all these different actions will come into one single action in the next single market program that will be called Joint Cluster Initiatives. I will not spend time on that because I think we're already running late, but it was just to make also the link with what Albena just explained you regarding InvestEU. So you have the difference a little bit now in this new programming period between what the single market program will offer for competitiveness of SMEs, which are rather non-financial instruments, and let's say the financial side, the financial support through the InvestEU SME window. In one image as well, what we can say now about the Joint Cluster Initiative, and again, all the modalities and details in order to get funding through Joint Cluster Initiative within the Single Market Program still have to be defined, but just to give you a little bit of the big lines. So you can see here all the 14 industrial ecosystems that were identified in the EU industrial strategy, which is, by the way, still being revised and updated following the COVID crisis, and for which, well, the revision should normally be communicated and displayed in spring this year. But if there are three things to recall and to take into account from the Joint Cluster Initiative, it's really this ambition to develop value chains interlinkages in the EU single market, to build the capacity between economic actors in the EU to increase strategic autonomy of the EU, and indeed to reinforce and to help facilitating, supporting, accelerating the transformation into a greener and more digital economy, which was really one, if not the major ambition of this von der Leyen Commission. So here you have the 6 specific objectives which could be helpful for clusters and SMEs. I'm not detailing everything in the SMP because really the focus here, I think, for you is really to see how this program could be of use for you as SMEs or clusters, but I will jump into details about each of them right now. So for clusters, the eligible actions that are defined already in the proposed regulation, and which shouldn't move, it's 3 details against that should perhaps still be drafted. But these are the following actions that we want to implement and to support through the Single Market Program in order to achieve the specific objective set by this program. So it's to provide various forms of support to SMEs, and clusters definitely are a very good tool, a very good driver or vehicle to provide information, mentoring, training, education, to provide opportunities for cross-border cooperation and also advisory services. Clusters will also be used in order to channel support to SMEs in facilitating their access to markets, both within the EU in order to still increase the business capacity of European SMEs within the single market, but also outside the EU, so namely to go, let's say, international in third countries. So this will be done in coordination with member states. There will be support in addressing global environmental, economic, and societal challenges. It's about really providing support during the entire cycle life of SMEs. And there's also a specific strand which will focus on strengthening the entrepreneurial spirit and leadership of EU companies in global value chains. For SMEs, there will be a specific action that will continue to run. Most of you probably know already what the Enterprise Europe network is doing, and so support will be provided to continue funding this very useful network for SMEs with different specific actions to be undertaken. There will also be some support to address market barriers, administrative burden, and in order to make really the business environment within the EU more efficient and favorable. And finally, there are three other eligible actions that are probably also more relevant for SMEs. It's facilitating the development and growth of businesses, again, by promoting technical, digital, and entrepreneurial skills, but also by providing tips, advices in order to switch towards more sustainable business management models. There will be actions to support the competitiveness and sustainability of enterprises and the whole sectors of economy, so supporting SMEs uptake of creativity and innovation, enhancing the corporate social responsibility. And there will be also specific eligible actions to foster entrepreneurial business environment and entrepreneurial culture. So with very different specific actions to be supported in that framework. So as I said, I mean, we are now finalizing really and looking forward for the formal adoption of the Single Market Programme regulation that we expect in the coming months. We are in the process of defining really what will be the Single Market Programme annual work programme. So to define exactly which type of action will be published when, what are the modalities, who can participate, and what can be eligible for funding, what are the conditions to get funding. So for joint cluster initiative, at least we expect to launch still the first call for proposal in the second half of this year. And then to finish, I simply wanted to give you a very quick update on the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, which has just been revamped a few days ago with a completely new branding of the website, but also with new features on this platform. There will be the official launch of the new version of the website, which is already running. But with the formal, let's say, launch of this new revamped European Cluster Collaboration Platform, which will take place this week during the industry days on Friday, as you can see. So if you want to join and see a little bit how this new cluster collaboration platform will look like, you can already visit the website to get an overview of it, or to join us on Friday at 12:30 for the official launch during the EU Industry Days. And that's it from my side, and happy to take any questions if you have some on the Single Market Programme.
Thank you very much, Benoit. It has been a great presentation and a really nice overview of the different opportunities. We'll go over to the questions. We do not have that many in the chat, but I have some more. So I have some more for all of you. So first of all, I have a question in the chat for Cornelius. Maybe you want to turn on the camera about what are the difficulties. and I think that can be addressed by several of the speakers, because it's what are the main difficulties to solve the gap between research and commercial development. At this point, for companies, it's difficult to have accurate knowledge about research and development in the industrial sectors. So I don't know if Cornelius is here. He's outside of the call, so maybe he had to leave. But I would go over to another question for Clement about the Horizon 2020, Horizon Europe. Clement, are you in here?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a question for you about the new upcoming work program that's going to be launched in May. Do you think there will be funding opportunities and calls for textile companies and advanced manufacturing, for instance, to drive the green transition, circular economy, digitalization of the sector? As you know that textile is one of the sectors prioritizing under the EU Green Deal. I don't know if you can make some sneak peek on that.
Many thanks for the question, and the answer is yes. I would develop over two ways. First, SMEs in the field of textile are welcome to join as participants in the consortia that will get funded. So it is about becoming partner in a research innovation collaborative project, and this will be done, to my best understanding, indeed, more below cluster 4 on digital industry and space, especially I would say on the part of the materials, but it is immediately linked indeed to the Green Deal. So again, it will be as well valuable for you to enter in connection with your representatives as well under cluster 5 and cluster 6, cluster 5 being about the nexus between climate, energy, and mobility. So behind, we have as well the new European BAOs, and more broadly, we have the need to help making our European buildings climate free. I think it might be relevant for you. And then as for cluster 6, we are here at the linkage between textile and agriculture environment. So I think it is valuable as well. And then last but not least, I would say as well that if you don't want to consider participating, at least you can always provide as well solution to those that will participate, because it is possible to become subcontractor of a project. And again, don't forget that you have access to all the scientific publication prepared in the context of Horizon Europe through open access. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Clement. I have another question for, meanwhile, for Albena about the InvestEU program. Which would be the process for SMEs to apply for one of the guarantees? It's just going to the bank, it's applying through the EU portal. Could you explain a little bit?
Yeah. It's just going to the bank to ask for lending. And in most of the cases, I mean, we have some provisions, of course, for transparency and informing companies that the support that they get is also supported through EU funds. But in most of apart from this transparency requirement, the SME would not have to do anything specific. It may not even know that we are standing behind the bank with the EU guarantee. What we care about is that the SME gets better conditions like if it lacks collateral, or if the maturity of the lending is not enough, or if the SME was just too risky for the bank to support otherwise without the EU guarantee, we would enable the commercial sector to really go into this area and provide better conditions. But the SME itself will not have to do anything specific. It doesn't have to go to the portal. It only goes to its bank to ask for lending, and then we deal with the bank itself. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for the clarification and the information. I see that Cornelius is back, so I can come back to you with a previous question that was posed. So Cornelius, can you turn on your camera?
Yes, or
Yes,
I
sir.
don't know, maybe I don't know
Okay.
if because now I was on cable before, but then the cable didn't work, so now I'm on Wi-Fi. I hope it's strong enough.
Yes.
Anyway,
Okay. So the question was, what are the main difficulties to solve the gap between research and commercial development from your perspective? And even at this moment, it's difficult for companies to have accurate knowledge about the research and development in the industrial sectors.
yeah, I think that's a very tricky and multifaceted question, actually, for which clearly there isn't an easy answer. So we are aware of this. We're trying to think about ways to bridge that gap. I mean, one idea is, for example, to have we're very successful with our corporate days for small and medium enterprises, where we connect big corporations with small and medium enterprises that work in a sector that is interesting for these corporations. So this works very well. We're trying to think, for example, to do something similar with universities, where we offer or research institutes, where we offer companies specific access to researchers from one institution or from several institutions that are working in their sector. I think something else is, of course, also what I mentioned in supporting the ecosystems. This, I think, is also something that can be done very effectively, sometimes at the national or regional level. So I don't think I have a silver bullet, but if there are more suggestions, I'm certainly open to listen also.
Okay, thank you. And I have one last question for Benoit about the joint cluster initiative. I heard in the past that you were discussing a couple of years back that you were discussing with the Commission about whether the budget would be similar to what has been between COSME and InnoSub01, that from DG-RTD you were quite ambitious, then Parliament was not that much. Will the new initiatives for the call of this year, tentatively speaking, will integrate the different cluster partnerships under the joint cluster initiatives, or do you plan to continue the split of the different international excellence and innovation support like mechanisms?
No, I mean, as I said, we are still very much in discussing, even internally, exactly, because it's also really related to the funding that will be available and how we could best use the program and the funding that we have in order to support the most efficient actions. What we have in mind so far, but again, there has been no formal agreement on that, would be indeed to already have like everything on the one framework, and to have the different cluster partnerships being also actors and playing their role in fulfilling and in helping achieving the objectives of this new single market program through the joint cluster initiative. So we would like indeed, and there are different things that comes into the picture, but we definitely count on cluster partnerships to continue working together and to continue working as partnerships in order to deliver in the future through the joint cluster initiatives. Okay,
thank you very much. Thank you all for your great presentations and great Q&A, and we'll look forward to all the different programs, particularly for SMEs and the different members of the clusters of CLAMTEX. And with that, I will invite Joao Oliveira, who will be the moderator for the second part of the blog, to say hello and take over the role of presenting each of the speakers. Thank you all.
Okay, now it's my turn. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. So, welcome to the second panel of today's webinar, and this second part is dedicated to 3 European initiatives for textile and advanced manufacturing SMEs, projects that also represent funding opportunities for SMEs in those fields. Now, we are talking about EIT manufacturing, and Gala Maturana will be talking about it. We have the ELIIT project, and we welcome Korina Mollá. And last, GALACTICA project, here represented by Josep Casamada. For the speakers, you will have 10 minutes for your presentation, and I will tell you when you have less than 1 minute to conclude it. And for the audience, please write your questions in the chat of this session. So, with no more delay, please, Gala Maturana, the floor is yours. We cannot hear you.
Sorry, yes. Sorry,
okay.
I was muted.
Okay, go.
Thank you, Joao, for the introduction. So, as Joao mentioned, I'm going to introduce EIT manufacturing to all of you. So the purpose of today is so that you understand a little bit who we are and what we do, because we've been operational for just 2 years. So we are a new player in the industry sector. So I would like to explain who we are and then what are the specific programs that we have. So I will share my screen now. Okay, so EIT manufacturing it's a knowledge innovation community, part of the EIT, the European Innovation and Technology Institute. So basically, we are a community of innovators that is composed by industry and academia. So just for you to understand. The rationale of today will be, I will explain why we exist, who we are, how we do it, and then why should you engage with us and how to engage with us. So the first starting point here is that manufacturing matters. The industry is the base of the economy, especially in Europe. So over 2.1 million manufacturing enterprises are in the industry sector. This means 32 million jobs, imagine. Out of these, 13 million jobs come from growing high-tech manufacturing industry, so startups, innovators, people that are bringing solutions. 16% of the GDP, Area 28, comes from the industry. So the importance of the industry it's massive. We know that, Europe knows that. This is why the EIT created EIT manufacturing, because we have to work to really make this an important subject, no? And sustain our industry, sustain our manufacturing. So the main challenges that we face as an industry, we all know them already, right? Digitalization, sustainability, more and more we need to take care of our environment, especially in the industry. And then, of course, competition. We're seeing more and more competitors coming from emerging countries. So it's really up to us to keep ourselves up there in the leadership of the innovation of the industry. So our vision is really to make global manufacturing innovation led by Europe. So we want to be a community of innovation that it's at the head of the game, like out there. And how we do it is we want to, the mission is really to integrate players. So we want to be a community where there is room for small players, big players, SMEs, startups, corporates. So we want really to engage with the local ecosystems. We think that it's very important to be very local, but with a European approach. That is really our mission. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We don't want to create things that are already there. What we want is to integrate, to make this a community where people can come to us and we can really engage locally. So what are our goals for 2030? So basically what we want to reach is like an impact in the economy. So we want to create 1,000 startups that can help transform the industry. We want to make that 60% of the manufacturing companies are sustainable. We want to help there. And then we want to also attract a lot of money to that, like 325 million in investment. We want to channel it to the industry or to all these players. So who are we, the partners? I mentioned that we are industry and academia. So we are formed by 60 partners. And as you can see here, some well-known names of private organizations that decide that they want to be part of us. They pay an annual fee and they engage and they benefit from being part of this community. Then, of course, we have universities and RTOs. Research centers are the backbone of the innovation many times. So we need them and we want them, and we make them part of this whole ecosystem. So where are we present? So we are, our headquarters is in Paris, but we are also very local. We are covering different areas of Europe. So, for example, I'm based in the office in San Sebastian, and we cover Portugal, Spain, and France from here. But we have colleagues all over Europe. These colleagues implement the same programs in each and every region. So Darmstadt, Gothenburg, Milano, Vienna, San Sebastian, these are our locations. And how we do it and who we are, it's really important to understand that we're supporting 3 pillars in our operation. We have education activities and programs. We have innovation activities and programs and business creation, because we think that you first need the talent to really attract it to the industry. Like less and less young people are interested in the industry, and we need to not like avoid that. We need them to engage, to really be interested. Then innovation, of course, is to make new things happen, to advance, to go further. And business creation is about taking this back to the market, back to the economy, to the jobs, to create new jobs. So this is why we have the 3 pillars. And then how we do it. So we run internal activities. We deliver support to these players that we mentioned. For example, access to market or access to finance programs. And then we also have our own calls for proposals, like we finance projects. So these projects, we have a budget yearly. As an example, you can see here our budget for 2020 was 36 million euros, and we used it for projects in education, innovation, and business creation. As you can see, the most popular one is innovation, as obviously, because we are an innovation community. And the way it works is that we assess the best calls that are aligned with our objectives and our indicators. So we make it really projects that have an impact in innovation, in the markets, in the economy. How to engage with us. So there are like 3 ways where you can engage with us. You could be a member, like let's say like the big corporation kind of membership, which is like a formal accession process. There's a fee, a membership fee of 75,000 euros. You have voting rights. You're actually like our owners. Then there is the chance to be an activity partner. This means that you engage in projects, but you're not a member. And this is possible. This is maybe an opportunity for many of you that you want to engage in our projects, but not be a member. That's totally fine. There is a reduced fee, but only if you get a project. It's like 10,000 euros, but only if you get involved in a project. And then, of course, we have the network partners. As I mentioned earlier, these are the players in the local ecosystems. We do strategic partnerships to build on what is local. So if you are an accelerator, if you are a local entity that works with industry, we're super happy to discuss and to engage with you. So why to engage with us? This is the reason, no? Like, so see, if you're a startup, I think it would be great to get you involved in the manufacturing sector. So if you are a startup that has like technology solutions to enhance the industry, the manufacturing sector, then you could engage in our Create and Accelerate programs. This year, I think they will be open around May. And this is basically engaging with us to get support, to access new clients, access new countries. So if you want to expand, we have offices all over Europe, so we provide that service. And of course, access to finance as well. If you are an SME, you can enroll in our transformation programs. These are also related to the challenges that SMEs have. So we can help advisory, coaching, and as well to access funding. This will be open around also mid of the year, maybe May or so. And if you're a corporate, as I mentioned, you could be a member, you could be accessing the forums of European manufacturing innovation agenda. Like, for example, we have the CTO roundtable. We have also like a lot of exchanges with academia. So it's a position where you can really have early intelligence of what's going on in the industry. Then, of course, you can lead a consortium, or one or more. You can also have access to technologies because we have a portfolio of 200 startups. So you would be in a community where you have access to what's coming up, with what's new, right? And then, of course, if you are a corporate that is looking to invest in other companies, we are a source also of investment opportunities. So knowing why you should join us, I want to explain the next call that will be open. This is going to happen 1st of March until 5th of May. This is the call for 2022. The projects, more or less, this is only for innovation, but I will just focus on the innovation projects. These are projects that they normally are 1 year duration, but could be extended. The TRLs are normally around 6 or 7, but if even higher, better. And the budget usually go from €500,000 to €1 million. And also we say that from 2 to 6 partners in the consortium, it's good. And minimum, it has to be from 2 regional offices. So for example, if there's one from my regional office, then one from Germany, for example. So the consortium needs to be like European international kind of thing. The success rate of our call is about 50% general, but for example, in education or business creation, it's higher, it's like 75%. So if you're interested to know more, let me know. Some projects that we have financed last year in innovation, for example, with Axel Group, sustainable human robot co-production. For example, Whirlpool, we had contaminations detection in manufacturing by spectral vision. And then, for example, automation and visual inspector for finishing processes for aerospace. These are just some examples so that you realize that the project can be very different as long as they have an innovative component that can be marketed. That is really what we're looking for. These are some projects that I don't think I have time. So I'll just jump into the call that we also have for startups, for innovation projects, startups, and SMEs. So every year we launch Boost Up. Boost Up is a call for projects that have different objectives. It can be for projects that want to create a new company, for projects that want to really scale, and then for transformation challenges for SMEs. So this is the way to engage with us in a more structured way. But of course, you can also go to the general call. But be tuned for this because this will happen. There will be an edition in April, I think, and maybe a couple more throughout the year. So Boost Up is our brand for attracting you, for attracting all of you. And we are very much looking forward to engaging with all of you. And if you have any doubts or if you want to know more about the calls, please get in touch with me. I'm very happy to answer any questions, any calls that you may have. Thank you so much. I'll take any questions afterwards.
Thank you, Gala. Thank you very much for your excellent presentation. Now we proceed with Korina Mollá, please. Questions at the end of the 3 interventions, okay? So, Korina.
Me?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see it.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, everybody. Estoy compartiendo esto. Sorry, one moment, please. No sé, es que yo sí que la veo bien, no sé. Muy bien. Can you see my presentation?
No. Oh, yes. Now we can. You have 2 screens, probably. You can present this way, probably.
Yeah, Korina, you can click on configuración de visualización and take out the presenter's view.
No me deja. ¿Clic derecho qué?
Corina, you can
Yes.
click on configuración de la visualización and there you can take out presenter views.
Configuración de la presentación.
Una vez lo tengas compartido, el botón de arriba, hay 3 botones, el del medio.
Así.
Mira, aquí si no puede dar el botón derecho, aquí, otra vista moderador. Entonces ahora ya comparto las pantallas solo se tendrá que ver uno.
No, it's perfect. Okay.
Okay, sorry for the inconvenience.
It's okay.
I'm going to present you this European initiative, and I'm going to go through different points. So, ELIIT at a glance, I will explain you the ELIIT benefits, who can participate, the eligible projects, the call for proposals. I will continue with some first call figures and facts, and some examples of the first call project. And also I will explain to you how to apply and present the ELIIT team. So ELIIT at a glance, this is a project funded by the COSME program of the European Union for the competitiveness of enterprises and small and medium-sized enterprises. So the main aim of ELIIT is to support textile, clothing, leather and footwear SMEs in implementing in their business models, processes of products, disruptive technologies from excellent research results achieved in many technological areas, such as the key enabled technologies, digital technologies, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, high performance materials, and circular economy. That means the main aim of ELIIT is to bridge the gap between the technology that normally is performed by the universities, research centers, and some startups, and the SMEs in these sectors I mentioned. So now we have the second call for proposals open until the 4th of April. And these are the main aims of main objectives of ELIIT. So to increase the competitiveness of the SMEs within the textile, confection, leather and footwear sectors, to promote European cooperation between SMEs and providers or owners of new technologies, the support to the technology transfer to SMEs, and to accelerate and improve the uptake of new technologies at the ones I mentioned before, the care technologies, materials, technologies, new materials for the technologies, assisted manufacturing, big data, and artificial intelligence. Ay, pero ¿y esto por qué me pasa? Es que no sé por qué pasa esto. Sorry, I have some problems with the screen.
Korina, if you want, we can change the speaker, and I will ask for Josep to talk about the Galactica project, and then we come back to you.
Okay. Thank you.
So thank you very much,
Thank
Josep. Can you introduce now the Galactica project?
Eso es que no entiendo nada.
Yes. Just.
Sí.
Yes, 1 second. Okay, so let me share my screen.
Okay. I think we all can see it.
Yes.
Please.
Okay, so thank you very much. I'm Josep Casamada, as I speak before. I'm also coordinator of the GALACTICA project, which is a INNOSUB 01 project from the Horizon 2020 program. GALACTICA is a innovation project aimed at supporting SMEs, and particularly in our case, the concept started from the different things. Someone else.
We stopped seeing your slides.
Okay, you should be able to see it now.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so GALACTICA concept is to bring together 3 different sectors in Europe. So we have the textile sector, the aerospace sector, and the advanced manufacturing sectors. Those are key sectors in Europe with significant market and business opportunities for the companies and well established within Europe. However, they are kind of traditional sectors in the sense that they lack the exploitation of digital technologies, advanced manufacturing sector technologies, and the sectors itself do tend to not know each other that much. The goal of GALACTICA is to transform Europe into a smart industry environment where we can have more overlapping value chains, digital industries, exploitation of smart industries, and to empower the cross-sectoral collaboration. This is aimed at reinforcing the European position of the European SMEs position in the global market so that they can be more competitive and more profitable, so that they can generate the employment and opportunities for growth. For that, we have the project is made up by 10 partners, 3 textile clusters, 3 aerospace clusters, 2 clusters from advanced manufacturing field, and we also have 2 stakeholders from the innovation ecosystem, so particularly Evan as the investor point of view, and Science Park Graz, which is one of the ESA business incubation centers, to provide push into the innovation and disruptive innovation into the sector to dynamize the textile, aerospace, and advanced manufacturing sectors. For that, GALACTICA has a total of 3 million euros in direct financial support for SMEs during the project duration, and those 3 millions are divided in different mechanisms. So we have envisioned GALACTICA with an entry point for cultivation of new value chains with a series of different activities, including online training with webinars, workshops, learning expeditions, matchmaking, and hackathons that will lead us to the first call of proposals, where we will have 2 main instruments, Pioneer Acceleration and Orbital projects, that are aimed to be accelerated to reach towards new value chains, where we will have also opportunities to find investors and leverage additional funding so that they can scale up and truly disrupt Europe. So in total, we will have financial support for SMEs in the big projects, so the Pioneer Acceleration Orbital project that I will detail more. We will also have available travel vouchers to participate in the different workshops and learning expeditions that are aimed to get the different sectors to meet each other. And we are also running 2 hackathons. One is ongoing, and I will explain a little bit more, where we have prizes for SMEs and startups and even students to get involved, dynamize the sector, and push forward innovation and disruptive innovation that can make Europe a leader on that. So the first activity that GALACTICA has been doing, so we are running now the first hackathon, which is divided in 2 rounds, which the first one ends in 15 minutes actually. The GALACTICA the participants in the hackathons will opt for prizes between 10K for runner-up, 25K for winner of the SME or startup team, and then also students, they are competing for 5K and 10K as a winning prize. We will have the finals in 3 weeks from now, and in total we have gathered already 39 teams comprising about 151 people in the first hackathon. This is the first hackathon. The next hackathon is going to be organized by probably end of 2021, where we may aim to have it the second round physically, but we will see how the situation evolves on the COVID side. We are also running right now a series of 10 webinars dedicated to promote the different potential synergies between the textile, aerospace, and Industry 4.0 and advanced manufacturing sectors as a way to get inspiration and ideas for the upcoming call for proposals. And you can register through the Galactica website. And the next one webinar is tomorrow on overview of technologies in textiles, aerospace, and Industry 4.0. So it's a great opportunity to identify potential synergy opportunities and get some ideas for applying for the first call of proposals, which will, as I mentioned, it will be launched in mid-March 2021. So we are about 2 to 3 weeks to launch date, and we will expect a deadline on May 2021. Galactica will open 2 calls. The first one is the one that we will open in next month. It will have a budget of about 1.2 million euros, and the second call is going to open next year with a budget of around 1.6 million euros. The goal of the proposals that we are looking for is to create, validate, and scale up new cross-sectoral and cross-border value chains among textile, aerospace, and advanced manufacturing. It's going to be pretty much bottom-up within these borders. And the only limitation is that it's for civilian applications. So no dual use are allowed for the call for proposals. In the call for proposals, we will have 2 main instruments. So companies may choose to apply for one or the other. We have Pioneer Acceleration, which are small projects of 20K in total, where a single SME can apply, or if they want to, they can apply in a consortia, but it's not needed. So it's a minimum of 1 SME. The total funding will be 20K per project, independently of the number of SMEs involved. And it's expected to last for about 4 months. In the first call, we expect to have funding for 20 projects of Pioneer Acceleration. And the key goal of Pioneer Acceleration is to make a concept validation, reaching an MVP and validate the business concept. So this is a small project, and then we have the orbital project as a demonstration project, so building and demonstrating the functional prototype and make market test, where we will have we will require at least 2 SMEs to apply as a consortia. The project funding will be 100K per project, so meaning that the maximum volume will be 100K, and each company will have allocated at max 58K per SME. It can be 2 SMEs, 3, 4. It's depending on what each of you considers better for your project. It's going to be intense project, so it's a 6 months project, and we expect to fund about 8 projects in the first call for this one. On the second call for proposals, we will have more available because in total we expect to have 20, and you will have more information on the final call for proposal in the next 3 weeks, probably published, and you will find access to the submission platform in the Galactica project website in around mid-March. Lastly, as we are going to launch the call for proposals in mid-March, we are organizing a info day where we will explain all the details on the final text of the call for proposals, the application forms, the different insights, and you'll have the opportunity to meet potential partners through a dedicated matchmaking on March 24. So you can save the date, and you can already register through the matchmaking.galacticaproject.eu, or entering in galacticaproject.eu. You can register already for the first info day and matchmaking that we will be launching to bring together the different sectors. And with that, I would like to thank you all for participating and attending. So I will be happy to answer questions at the corresponding section. Thank you.
Okay, Josep, thank you. And in fact, you have a question for you. So can we go back to Korina?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, please.
So I'm following with the explanation of ELIIT. I start at the beginning. So ELIIT is a COSME program. It belongs to the COSME program of the European Union. And the main aim is to bridge the gap between the research results and the TSLF SMEs, so companies in the textile, clothing, leather and footwear sector. To help them to implement in their business model, processes or products disruptive technologies that have been the result from the excellent results of the universities, research centers and startups. Some examples of the technological areas that ELIIT covers are key enabled technologies, digital technologies, artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, high performance materials, and the circular economy. And we have now opened the second call for proposals until the April the 14th. So the main objectives of ELIIT is to increase the competitiveness of SMEs within the above mentioned sectors, to promote the European cooperation between the SMEs and tech providers, to support the technology transfer to SMEs, and to accelerate and improve the uptake of technologies, the ones I've mentioned before, in the SMEs. Which are the ELIIT benefits? ELIIT will select 25 partnerships between SMEs active in the TSLF sectors and innovative technology owners or providers through the launch of different call for proposals with an incubator program consisting of the financial support of 70,000 euros per project, the provision of a tailor-made coaching program to participants in different fields, the participation in one workshop conference related to innovation and technology uptake, and one exhibition or trade fair to showcase the project results, the provision of professional links between the project partners and other players by organizing networking activities. Who can participate in these calls? Of course, SMEs in the above mentioned sectors and technology owners providers established in the EU 27 and COSME countries. You can have access to the COSME countries, eligible countries, in the website. The proposals must be submitted jointly, and the transnationality will be positively evaluated, but is not necessary. So one research center and one company from the same country is eligible, this consortium. Also, they have to demonstrate technology transfer from the tech partner to the TSLF SME. This technology transfer may occur in a vertical or in an horizontal way. Very important, the technology must be within the TRL 6 or 7. So technology demonstrated in relevant environment, ready to be and scale up at industry or production level. The technology implemented in the proposal must be innovative and disruptive for the sectors. There must be hyper importance within the evaluation process of the cooperation between partners. The improvements may be implemented in process or products, and the proposal must reflect an IPR strategy that could be afterwards through the project be improved, but an initial IPR strategy must be included. We have closed the first call for proposals in March last year, and now, as mentioned, we have the second one open. Some facts and some figure of facts of the ELIIT first call. We have received 93 proposals from 24 EU and COSME associated countries. And this is the innovation priorities addressed within this first call. smart high-performance materials, advanced digitized manufacturing, value chains and business models, circular economy and resource efficiency, and high value-added solutions for attractive growth market. We have selected in this first call 15 projects from involving 30 European partners, SMEs, both SMEs and tech providers from the following countries. So the main country is Spain, followed by Germany, Italy, Austria, and so on. Some examples of these 15 projects selected in the innovation priority smart high-performance materials. We have CLAMTEX, it's a consortium of Spain and Romania. Functional coatings for fire protection textiles, heat storage and heat dissipation capacity. The main aim is to validate and implement the technology based on the use of PCMs, phase change materials, and carbon-made composites to obtain textiles for firefighters and industrial protection with heat storage properties and high thermal conductivity for heat dissipation capacity and thermal comfort. And in the circular economy and resource efficiency, we have the new white leather. New white and easier to clean leather is a consortium from 2 partners from Portugal. The objective is to take to the market a new concept of tanning and finishing leather, which allows obtaining functional products in light colors, white and pastel colors, based on a cleaner tanning process with lower pollutant discharge and no dosage for heavy metals and formaldehyde. And how to apply? You can check out the eligibility criteria in the website. Register in our platform. Here you have the link. Look for a partner because you are not allowed to apply alone. You need a partner to work with, and to submit together the project proposal. Only one proposal until the 14th of April. And the project proposal template has 4 sections. One of them is the technical description of the project and the impact. The second section is the excellence and innovation. Third section is dedicated to the implementation. And the section 4, the identification of needs and obstacles. This section is not evaluated, it's only as a statistical purposes. And you can find also on the website, other support documents such as the guide for applicants and the frequent asked question documents. And this is the implementing team of ELIIT. In the middle is the European Commission, and we are the AITEX, the ELIIT coordinator. We have the Textile Technology Center. We have INESCOP, which is a footwear technology center. CARSA. GOPA is a communication agency, and one legal partner, Anna Maria Stein, which is in charge of support you in all the IPR issues, agreements, etc. So thank you very much. Here you have my email for further questions, and I open for the next session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Korina. So let's proceed to the question, and we have here 2 questions, one from Paula Fontana, and it's for Gala Maturana. And it says something like, how can we have access to the calls? Do we have to be members or not of the EIT manufacturing? Your mic is muted, sorry.
Yes,
okay.
Thank you, Joao. Thank you for the question, Paola. So no, you don't have to be partners. You can join a consortium. So the way it works is that you need to find out what projects you're interested in, right? So we are now in the middle of the preparation of the call. So if you're interested, if anyone is interested, they can get in touch with the CLC there. The CLC is like the office, the regional office, right? So depending on the country that you're in, maybe if you're in Italy, then you go to CLC South, and then they will you get in touch with them, you say, I'm interested in the call, then they will give you access to a platform where you can see all the projects that are going to be proposed. So if you find something that you're interested in, that you can apply your technology to, then you get in touch with the consortium members, let's say. But the way to do it is contacting the people in your region. If you can't find it, you can contact me and I will put you in touch. So don't worry. So if anyone needs like a contact, it's okay. You can just send me an email.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Josep. And the question for you, Josep, is Galactica calls are open to proposals of different TRL levels?
Yes, so we have two financial instruments for the call of proposals. So one is Pioneer Acceleration, which are 20K vouchers, so financial support of 20K, and it's for concept validation, so lower TRL, while the orbital projects, which are 100K projects, are for higher TRL level. We won't set most probably fixed TRL level itself, but the goal of the orbital project is to build a demonstration and make a first market test, so it should be ending up in a high TRL level. We want to make it easy for companies, so if they have a concept, they want to make an MVP, a minimum viable product, make a first initial validation to go through the Pioneer Acceleration, and then demonstration projects through the orbital projects. Hopefully this is quite clear.
Okay, Josep. There are no more questions in the chat, but I have one for you, and it's for all of you. Regarding the open calls or the funding opportunities and SMEs that are now thinking about applying for funding, what is a good application and what is not a so good application, besides the eligibility requirements of the calls? You can start by, for instance, Gala.
What is a good call? That is a good question. So basically, it's very important to be to read what are the criteria. For example, in our case, we have like 4 flagships, technical flagships, like in the different like technological domains. So it needs to be within one of them. So it has to be, let's say, aligned with the themes. Then it has to be like a rationale behind the consortium. So who does what? That needs to be very clear, and the reasons for that. And then also like what will happen with that technology. So we are very much focused on taking it to the market at some point. So we're not investing in TRLs that are very low. We want things that, you know, have a real impact, that really lead to something. So I would suggest think of technologies that of course are interesting, but that can be further be used in different like markets or use cases. So make it super concrete and aligned. I would say aligned, concrete, and think of the practicality of it. Like how is this going to be interesting for Europeans manufacturing industry? Try to take it a little higher, not just my own little project here in my corner doing it. Take it wider, take it to a bigger scope. And then the person evaluating will be, okay, this makes sense, you know, like in the end, we think so many proposals that we need to take the ones that really make sense at a higher level. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yes, a lot. Korina, what is your perspective on that?
Yes, for ELIIT, a good proposal should be the one that has the main aim, the technology transfer. So that means that the technology owner must be, in fact, have the rights to really transfer this technology to the company. So this is very important. And also that this technology must be within the tech priorities that are defined. And that there is a real technology transfer. That means that at the end of the project, this technology that's it's at the beginning at TRL 6.7 should be have at least 8 TRL 8 to effectively go to the market. That could be a success project for ELIIT.
Okay, thank you, Korina. Josep?
Yeah, it's a really nice question. From Galactica point of view, what we are looking is for innovative projects. Also, the approaches that are innovative in terms of the deployment of the project. We want projects that are agile, that they can adjust, they can iterate, and they can reach to something that it's marketable. So that's why we are looking at the terms MVP. So something that you can start presenting to the potential customer at the end of the pioneer acceleration, or something that you can start selling at the end of the orbital project. We understand that some projects will take longer, that's something understandable, but we want very much to bring it to the market and drive the innovation to the market, agility into the different projects and the impact, so that it's something that it's not to start something that we may see in 10 years. It may happen in some case where it's a highly deep tech or something, but we want things that are actually sellable and marketable in the short term. So that would be a recommendation.
Okay, that's a very good answer, Josep. So I want to thank you, all of you, for the excellent presentation and the answers for all these questions. And Josep, I give you the control of the session now.
Yes. Okay, so thank you all for joining this session, participating in the virtual marketplace. We still have one last session of B2B meetings in the next minutes. I would hope that you enjoyed the series of the 6 webinars that we have been organizing. You will find all the webinars recorded in the CLAMTEX project website, which is clamtex.eu. Please feel free to access there. Also, we invite you to, once the traveling is possible, again, to contact us in case you want to participate in physical exchanges where you will be able to visit other countries, potential partners in other countries, and we have financial support from CLAMTEX to support you on that. So please feel free to contact us. And with that all said, thank you all the speakers, because we have over 20 companies presenting their different needs, challenges, trends, solutions. So I think it has been a really exciting program, the virtual marketplace, and we look forward to seeing you in the different activities that we will organize in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.